If you don't know the problem that your business is solving and you can't articulate that to either a 10-year-old or a 65-year-old, you're not going to raise money. Not only should you have an impressive team, but you also need to have founder business match, right? Founder business fit. So are you a good founder, but are you the right founder to create this company? If I said I was going to get into pharmaceutical or product, I have no background in pharma. So that would just be stupid to do. I need someone who does have extensive experience on my founding team to make that happen. If I have absolutely no network, no connections, no family, no friends, no nothing, okay, well, maybe you haven't done much in your life, but let's just say you have and you still don't have that list, you need to get on LinkedIn and you need to make friends. You're not going to be asking for money. You're going to be, can I buy you coffee? Can I buy you lunch? Who's going to turn down free food? Raise money because you need money, capital, to unlock certain milestones in your business. The first 10 people you have in your org are going to set the culture for the duration of the business. Everyone at the end of the day is just in it for themselves. Some people are probably going to completely disagree with this.
Max is a founder of HotDrop. He is product and sales leader who existed his first app venture in 2017 and has since served over 1 million users in 140 countries. As one of the youngest CEO in the Techstar Accelerator, Max has raised more than 2 million in capital, built high performing teams, and has proven track record of taking ventures from 0 to 1. Max, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So this is how we start, Max. Tell us about your background, where are you from, and know your education and any sequence of event that led you to start your first company.
Sure. Appreciate the intro. Definitely humbling. I think when I look back at my journey, I started as just an ordinary kid, student who was obsessed with the gaming space. So I'm come from a suburb outside of Boston, Massachusetts. So here in the United States, pretty typical upbringing, went through the public school system. In middle school, that was about the time for me, 2016, 17, when all of my friends were playing these casual gaming apps. So that was the rise of Ketchup and Voodoo Labs, if you can recall those games, and everyone was playing them. And as someone that was always willing to take action and wanted to create, I decided to take the long journey of learning software development on my own. So I started building casual gaming space, actually using a framework called Corona SDK, which I think is completely deprecated at this point. But I started to build casual gaming apps, released half a dozen games, didn't have too much success. But then going into high school, I had my big break when I built and sold a utility app called Wi-Fi Pal.
Wow. Awesome. That seems like a crazy journey. I mean, like you were back then, you were in school, right?
So when I first started, I was in, just middle school, just public school, and then high school in my 10th grade. That was 2017 is when I had that first exit, which was an asset sale.
Wow. Wow. Nice. I mean, so I talk to a lot of people around. They all have the idea, but they have a complaint saying that, oh, I don't get the time to execute. Like, no, I don't have a time out of 9 to 5. I need to go home. I have things to take care of. I mean, someone as young as you, studying in school, right, having academic pressure, right, and out of that you went on to like code, build your first product, launch it. So what was the mindset behind it? I mean, if you can also tell us, like, where did it come from?
Sure. I guess just from my own genetics and DNA, I come from a family of small business owners, not in the technology space, mostly in commercial real estate. But I've always had people around me that emphasize taking risk, whether it be a personal risk, a financial risk, and trying to go for something. So I think that was just a natural stepping stone for me as a person. And I think the most successful entrepreneurs typically do have other entrepreneurial thinkers around them, whether it be family or friends. So that was something I was born with, and that's an advantage that I try not to take for granted. Going into my younger years in school, right prior to college, and my most recent venture, HotDrop, I always was someone that felt that I had more time on my hands. I don't know if that was just circumstance or the fact that I was always that student who thought I didn't have that much homework, at the time. I always felt that I needed something else. and I wasn't just going to go play video games or, do everything that some of my friends were doing at the time. So
Wonderful.
I think as someone that was always flowing with ideas, I'm a natural creative person. Taking that time and the room to create, harvested that environment to build. And it just so happened to be that apps were the medium of the creativity.
Okay, let's go in detail now. Okay, I'll,
Mhm.
I'll deep dive into some of your uh, journey. So the first thing first, like the first company you built in, right? Guide us through your ideation phase, through your blueprint. When did you create your prototype? What was the MVP? How these phases came in, and how did you navigate it all around?
It's a great question. And still something I'm improving on my own today. Obviously, that journey from spur of the moment, right? Idea. I have an idea. Now, what do I do? My
Right.
approach has drastically changed over the years as I've learned
Hmm.
more, as I failed a lot, and had a few, inevitable successes because I've been trying for now
Hmm.
years to build something. When I first started, to be quite honest, having an idea and then having the time and liberty to go and build something right away, I didn't do too much testing or validation of my ideas in the early phases. And I think
Hmm.
that's why I was failing. It was cool to create things. And I think as someone that wants to create a big business, you're going to have to get the early repetition in when you start your journey, no matter
Hmm.
your age, right? But I didn't do much validation, no market testing. I didn't really speak with users when I was starting with my games. I took a different approach when I built Wi-Fi Pal, which was the company I exited in high school. Instead of focusing on games, which are entertainment, and you kind of just have to build the thing and then test it to see if people enjoy the game, right? Because you're
Wow.
solving boredom as the problem. I
Right.
I pivoted my focus to solving problems that consumers were having.
Hmm.
So I knew I wanted to build a B2C company, and I knew that I had to find problems around me that people were willing to pay for and problems that they actually, were looking for a solution for. So in that journey in high school, the problem I saw around me all the time, keep in mind this is, years ago now, I'd go over to my friend's house. I'd go over to my grandparents' house and I'd ask, "What's the Wi-Fi password?" And I'd always get this answer, "Oh, we don't know," or, "check the back of the router," or it's this crazy long, string of alphanumeric string, right? And I just thought there would be a more simplified, streamlined way to share Wi-Fi passwords. So I heard the problem around me. That's what spurred the idea to then allow people to connect to Wi-Fi, you know, networks with a QR code, right? The square codes.
Hmm.
And this was before Apple or Samsung had this in the iOS or in the OS on the phone. So this was
Wow.
pretty early. And I streamlined that process. So I think I trained my ear and my mind to listen to people's problems around me.
Hmm.
People complain a lot, and I had a little notepad and I'd write down the problems as I heard them. Right.
Wow.
That takes training, but I think that was really my first step into, okay, how do I go from idea to validation, and then how does that then lead to the MVP, right?
Hmm. 10 minutes into a conversation and I already have a lot of insight. So I'm more excited about now your entire journey now. Okay. So this was your high school venture, right? I mean,
Yes.
you made an exit and now let's say you are in university,
Hmm.
possibly trying to build something more, right? So now coming to a journey of HotDrop, right?
Hmm.
So I saw that you kind of had a like full-fledged kind of team there. You went to the incubation and learning everything.
Hmm.
So guide us here, like how did the idea of hot drop came in, right? I mean, how did you do the market validation, right? Now you have a learning from your high school, right? I'm sure this is like more robust, right?
Yep.
Idea, more like refined way you have approached in a very refined way now. So guide us through this, like the ideation phase now, and how did you kind of went on to validate the market, right? And then create that first product.
Look, that's totally a great question because it shows the transition from looking for problems and then how my approach pivoted in college. So,
Right.
and I think any entrepreneurs who hear this podcast can probably relate to points in their life or their career where they're kind of looking for something. They would jump into a project, but they might not have an idea, or they don't have the problem they want to solve, or they don't have passion, or any of the above, right? So I went into college knowing I'd have a fair amount of time on my hands. I knew I'd be
Hmm.
learning a lot, but I knew that I'd have like an American college experience where you do have a lot of time with friends who also want to build things, right? But really, my first 2 years, I went to Indiana University in the Kelley School of Business,
Yes.
which was just ranked number 9, I believe, as the public or in business schools here in the U.S. I was studying finance. So I
Wow.
wasn't even studying computer science. I had already taught myself. I didn't feel it was necessary to do that. Um, but for my first 2 years, right, my freshman and sophomore years of college, I had no ideas. I was not building much. I was tinkering, but nothing serious.
Hmm.
Come my junior year, is when the idea for HotDrop, which wasn't HotDrop then,
Uh-huh.
it became a side project of myself and a few of my friends at school, where we were doing a compulsive amount of sharing of music from underground artists. We are diehard fans. Anyone that's been to college knows how much music influences young people. But we felt, and this was really before TikTok was fully, really rolling as well. We really were into the underground scene, independent artists, smaller. And we did
Wow.
some digging, and we realized that 90% of all the artists on Spotify and Apple Music had 0 plays on their
Wow.
music. 0. Ghost tracks is what they call it. So we saw that, hey, we are sharing this music. The apps we use, I used Apple Music, wasn't surfacing what we wanted to hear. And we also
Hmm.
thought that the sharing process was really clunky and
Hmm.
inherently not meant for Gen Z, right? My generation. So, as a side project, not looking to create a business, not looking to make money,
Uh-huh.
myself and a couple others hacked together a MVP, if you will,
Uh-huh.
of what HotDrop ended up becoming.
Hmm.
We released this on the App Store just as a data point, and within 2 weeks, 0 marketing spend, we took it to the 7th free music app on the top charts, and we did 2 million songs discovered within our platform, 25K monthly active. So we saw an immediate reaction
Hmm.
in American college life. So this is kind of a different experience, right? Where instead of now looking for a problem, we kind of just built a passion project again. We did a little bit of research. We put something small out there,
Hmm.
and we would have just burned the project if it didn't work. So we were relying way more on the data this time around.
Great, great. So, I mean, this time you had some data to back it up,
Right.
right? You did some research around the college, right, university, and understood the pain point of the friends and family members, possibly, and then you built in around it and launch it. So now I talk to a lot of founders, and I get few insights here as well. But I would love to hear your insight here. Like, do you think the founders burn a lot of time uh, doing the market research, or you think that now is this something should not be considered too seriously and kind of build the product and test the market directly? What is your take here?
It's such a great question. I think that if you're building software, especially today with all the new tools and developments and from the AI scene that were not there just a few years ago,
Uh-huh.
the best form of market validation you're going to get is through building something and get it out to real people who may or may not use your product. I think that is the market validation. I went to business school, so I was taught this old way of, the consulting style, like read reports and access databases. That might be true for much larger companies that have that kind of resource to really dive deep.
Right.
You don't have that as an indie hacker or a first time, second time entrepreneur. You got to just get the thing in front of people. I think that
Right.
that is the goal that people should
Uh,
have for validating whether their solution is the right one to solve a certain problem,
uh,
and or does that problem exist at all, right? So something that I've really taken away from this past experience is this idea of problems that people have or businesses have versus complaining.
awesome.
People complain about a lot of things. I complain a lot. We all do. But sometimes when the product or solution, even if it was perfect, is given to that person, they might just say, "Hey, you know what? But it's fine the way it is," or "I'm not paying for that." And then there might not really be a problem worth solving. And I think that that difference is key. So combining shipping product, shipping code, right, and making sure that you're solving a real problem that they'll pay for,
Uh,
those two have to be fused to do your validation.
Understood. Nice. Thank you so much for that answer.
Of course.
Great, awesome. So, moving further in your journey, let's say, I mean, you have the traction now, right? I
Mhm.
mean, you know that product is hit now. I mean, like you're getting a lot of traction. You have the data now. So, moving forward, tell us, how did Techstar happen? How did you get accepted there? And because I'm sure a lot of young viewers watching this, they are now trying hard to get into that Y Combinator, no, Techstar, these incubations, and so this will help them for sure. So help us with, what was the prerequisite? How did you get accepted there?
Mhm. I want to preface my answer by saying there is a obsession, almost a cult-like obsession with startup accelerators, incubators, whether it be Techstars, YC, and several other notable ones, right?
Right.
I think that there are certainly advantages to these programs.
Okay.
There are clear disadvantages as well, which I can get
Mhm.
into.
Mhm.
But most importantly, it is the human tendency to be mimetic and to follow all these people rushing into a small hole because that's validation. But the reality, and this is a Peter Thiel line, right? In competition is for losers. Going through the small hole and fighting for the competition, that competes away all value, right? In a
Mm.
capitalist economy. So it's important from a high level to remember that these things are cult-like. There are advantages that they're cults.
Mhm.
But don't buy into or get distracted by the dogma, that is coming
Mm.
out of these accelerators or whatnot, because you can totally succeed without them. But back
Mm.
to my story. So I was studying finance, right? Like I told you, I had junior year a summer analyst position lined up. I broke into investment banking, which was kind of in hindsight a crazy decision, complete opposite from what I was doing,
Mhm.
building things. I wanted that understanding of how corporate finance works, how the big companies look at opportunities, right? I was doing mergers and acquisitions at an investment bank called Houlihan Lokey. So I was doing that. That was my summer analyst position.
Okay.
But prior to that, and that was secured my sophomore year because you recruit for banking a year ahead, I had this project going, which was going to ultimately become HotDrop. I'm on the desk at my summer analyst position at Houlihan Lokey. I did it.
Okay.
And about halfway through, and I actually liked the work. I just realized that I'm not able to use any of my creative impulses. It's a lot of
Mm.
it's a lot of repetition, despite the compensation, and that wasn't for me. So on the desk, I would go in between the bathroom, quite literally at the firm, and my team and I, we applied to Techstars. I was taking calls with then who would be my Techstars managing director, Lars Perkins, but I was going back and forth while doing that, working 95 hours a week, maybe more. It was brutal.
Wonderful.
So I wanted it that badly. Now, I think that there's a lot of ways that you can improve your ability to get into these programs. But at the end of the day, storytelling and the timing of the opportunity are paramount.
Mm. Awesome. So, is there any prerequisite to get into, like, if you can also talk about that, because I really want to understand that, how process goes on,
Mhm.
like, and how people get accepted, because I know this is not easy to get into. I know about the Y Combinator as well. I know about the Techstars. So, if you can just a bit elaborate on that part.
Yeah, I mean, they're both selective Techstars for Y Combinator. I'd say that
Right.
Y Combinator is more selective. For me, the timeline just worked that I liked about Techstars. They
Mhm.
have like a fairly rolling application basis. So unlike YC, where they have like these batches that are in predefined times, and they just announced, I think, a new session as well, the fall cohort, which is exciting.
Right.
But
I saw
Techstars
that.
had way more offices and way more programs running that just happened to align with what my career and my timeline would have looked like.
Mhm.
In terms of the prerequisites, there's no prerequisites per se, like no official prerequisites, but
Mhm.
I think it's a given that if you're going to get into an accelerator, you must remember that these are VCs.
Mm.
These are venture capital funds that have an education component to source deal flow early, right?
Understood.
The thesis is if we can incubate these companies, they are more likely to raise on an up round, which then increases the
Mhm.
value of our investment immediately post program. That is the thesis of their firm. So once you know their incentives, you should work backwards to your own company and reverse engineer that process, right? So, okay,
Great.
they're looking for a company that is going to enjoy the program, is going to
Mhm.
move out there, is going to, bust their, you know what, for the 13-week program. So they get a lot done, right? And then after, they want you to raise more money. So I knew that going into it, I needed to demonstrate that we were venture backable and that this company was a rocket ship, right? So at the time, I think the more compelling points, and I've had conversations with, you know, the Techstars process post, like, why did I get in? Team, team, team. And certainly the fact that I was able to put together a fundraising round pretty quickly, and was doing that while applying to Techstars. So I think as a tip for anyone that is applying to these programs, if there's some way that you can get a friends and family check, even if it's something really small, or you know, from an angel or another VC group prior or while you're applying, that's going to create that urgency that they should admit you.
Wonderful. Understood. Understood. It's like entire process, right? It's their interest as well in you, so they can have you as early as possible.
Right.
Graduating from that, they expect you to raise more money so that their pieces grow as well. Okay. Understood.
And you don't have to raise more money, but as my experience in Techstars, and I think any of my cohort mates and others would agree, there is a strong emphasis to fundraise after. Several companies in my cohort did not and are still operating and doing fine, but they give you $100,000. I think it's for 7% common. They have their standard deal or whatever it is, 6%, and then you can get another $100K note at like a competitive interest rate, and you can choose to do that or not. So we elected to take the 120. But again, within a span of 13 weeks, our business had adequate funding, runway, and we had that stamp of approval with the Techstars logo. Whether you like it or not, that is definitely a validator for ongoing conversations, right?
Wonderful, wonderful. So, one question here, like now. So, like you got the first check from the Techstar, right? I mean, so tell us, how did you sell them your vision? How did you create the vision in first place? Because I know they are looking something for far-sighted companies, right? The people, those who have vision to build for, let's say, 10 years, 20 years down the line, right? Go for an IPO so that their share grows as well. So being very early, like, as you're very young, right? And you're like very talented guy,
Thank
right? So, I mean, in the first place, how did you create that vision, and what was the thing that they got attracted to? Was there any KPI or your vision that you sold them? How did that happen?
Sure. Great question. There's many things, right? And it's hard to isolate it down to just like one or two factors. But first and foremost, we had traction. So we were coming into Techstars, right? We're applying to Techstars with that side project of HotDrop already launched. So we had, whether it was the strongest validation or not, we didn't have any revenues, pre-revenue. We were pre-revenue all through finishing Techstars as well. We had users. We had shown the ability to scale something with essentially zero resources. It also helped that, and it didn't hurt me, that I wasn't full-time on the venture. So what was important as well is that I was in school and I was working, you know, a grueling job in finance. And I think that showed that I have the personality of someone that's just going to get it done no matter what's going on. So any way you can engineer your narrative, your personal story, right, irrespective of the company, to show that you can balance several things at once and you want this that badly, that's someone that is going to get, you know, investment, because they're trying to protect their money, right? That's all it is. They're trying to generate returns. In terms of the vision, I've always been someone that's done public speaking. When I was young, I hated it. I'd be the kid that gets red. I was embarrassed, and you know, when I was much younger, hated it. Like anything, if you practice it, you're forced to do it, you get much better. I'm naturally very high on energy. I have no shortage of energy and passion. So that coming through is incredibly important, especially when you're a younger person. You're likely you might have more energy bottled up, and that's totally fine to show, as long as you channel it in a professional way that shows that you believe this thing more than anyone. You know it's going to work.
Wonderful.
It's inevitable, right? And I think that those are some of the main points. I will give you this final detail. My Techstars MD had a rule that he's followed his entire career. He's been a VC. He sold his company to Google. that he does not accept college students. He doesn't accept young students because there's so much more you have to learn and experience in life, your
Right.
job.
Right.
He broke that rule for me. And he told me he was breaking that rule. And I think that, again, comes down to the intangibles. When you have these calls with your MD, when you're going to have these panel meetings, you need to show that you're not some kid. You're young, but
Right.
that's not stopping you. And as
Right.
long as you make that clear and they feel it, age is not going to hold you back.
Very interesting, though. You are very bright. I mean, I can feel your energy right away. So
Thank
absolutely. I mean, anyone would get swayed away for sure. Awesome. So fast forward. Now you graduated from Techstar.
Mhm.
Okay. Now you have money in with you, right? What did you do next? Because I need to understand these dots. A lot of people are there out there now. I mean, might not have a VC money, but have some money. They want to start. They have an idea. They have initial traction. What next? What was your step after this?
So let me just paint a picture of a timeline here. Techstars was starting in September of 2022. Our demo day was set for December 15th, 2022. So right at the end of 2022.
Wonderful.
I knew that we would have this glitz, this attention, this buzz post-program. And I knew that you can't waste the time when you have that demo day. You have to get into fundraising. If you're planning on raising more money, we wanted to raise more money. We were planning to raise $1 million. Okay. That was the plan. Now, the problem was that end of 2022 to 2023, I mean, the Federal Reserve is raising rates. I mean, this is some of the worst time to ever raise money, paired with the fact I was going into the Christmas season, into the new year. VCs do not come into the office. They'll say they do. They don't work in December, and they come back in early to mid January, right? They take that time off. So no deals get done at the end of the year and at the beginning of a new year. So I knew I had a problem. I needed to keep that attention hot, right? Going into the new year, and I didn't want to lose momentum. So what a lot of the time I spent in Techstars was actually, as soon as I got there, the first 2-3 weeks, I started building an intro list of investors. I started getting warm introductions, which the Accelerator helps drastically with. I started to have these early calls so that when I head into 1Q of 23, I already had these leads set. And even if they lulled, which some of them stalled a little because of the holiday fuzz, they didn't even know who we were, I feel like, at the, when we came back. You have those meetings. So if you're someone that is in one of these programs and you have the luxury to go and raise more money afterwards, which I'm assuming you do, it's very important that as soon as you get in those programs, you start building those investor relationships. So we raised $1 million in the second quarter, or over $1 million. We oversubscribed in 2023 in the second quarter. Look at all investors. They're all investing with only one intention, and it's greed. And once you realize that all investing is just predicated upon greed, again, my strategy is to reverse engineer the processes, reverse engineer the thinking. This is the outcome they need to be greedy, to deliver for their limited partners, right? The folks who are investing capital in their funds. How can we show that this thing can be big and make a lot of money, right? And I think that paired with a healthy dose of FOMO, right? Just building that fear that they missed the deal. Who else is in this? It's very sheep-like, very mimetic again. You can kind of reverse engineer it to build momentum and get a round done.
Wonderful. So a step back here. For the fundraise, you must have made a slide deck, right? So I saw one of your video as well. That was really good. Just want you to elaborate on that a bit so that all our viewers here. I mean, anyway, I'm going to put your Instagram account in the description so that people can go and see what a wonderful content you create there. So, and everyone would be kind of benefited out of it. So just to elaborate on that, I saw that your video on the pitch deck, right? How to create that. So tell us your journey. How did you create that first deck, and how did you improvise on that? So anything that you can tell to our viewers and that can be benefited, I mean, for their experiences.
Great question. I'll make this super simple. Pitch deck is incredibly important, maybe the most important part of the fundraise. especially in the beginning phases. It's also something that is the most easy to get wrong, or the most. It's just I learned how to create a good pitch deck through iteration after iteration after iteration with my mentors and Techstars. Again, another advantage of an accelerator or any network where you have exited entrepreneurs and or investors, you're going to be able to, again, what is a good deck and work backwards. And it turns out you don't need to reinvent the wheel like I was trying to in the beginning. You don't need to get crazy with the structure. There is a pretty clear structure of what an investor needs to hear to be able to even evaluate if this opportunity, right, is for them in terms of their fund's thesis and mandate, but also something that they believe that will be big, right?
Great.
So I did do a video on my Instagram about this, but without getting into too individual detail, right? First thing, you need to have a compelling one-liner. What is the company? No jargon, no buzzwords, no slang, no industry-specific vocabulary. We do this and this, or we help businesses make money. Just super simple, right? That's on your cover slide. You're going to have problem, right? What is the problem? Very clear. What is the problem? If you don't know the problem that your business is solving and you can't articulate that to either a 10-year-old or a 65-year-old, you're not going to raise money. Simple. After the problem, the solution, right? You might get into a couple examples of what the world looks like before your product, and then how amazing it is after your product, to just make that distinction clear. You'll probably have some sort of product demo, screenshots, video, or something that you have, a live demo, right? You're going to talk to go-to-market strategy. Well, how are you going to get users and customers? If you're already doing that, how have you done that? What will it look like in the future, right? You want to talk about competitors. So what does the industry look like? The market sizing, right? How big is this industry? How big will the industry be as you get bigger? That's more important, not what it's like now. What's the TAM, right? The total addressable market as the industry grows. That's where you can capture real growth. And then, of course, there's other slides that I'm probably missing, but the team. The team is how you raise money in the early stage. Not only should you have an impressive team, but you also need to have founder business match, right? Founder business fit. So are you a good founder, but are you the right founder to create this company? If I said I was going to get into pharmaceutical, or product, I have no background in pharma. So that would just be stupid to do. I'd need someone who does have extensive experience on my founding team to make that happen. So there's a number of different items there. Since you have checked my social media, I've uploaded my HotDrop deck for that pre-seed round. I open sourced it. So if anyone goes, they can actually, if they join my email list, they will get my deck for free, unedited completely, of what I use to raise that money. So people can also check that out.
So I'm going to put your link definitely in the description. And just to tell all our viewers that Max also does one-on-one. Do reach out to him. And if you believe that you want to ask more specific question, I think Max will be able to help you. And do reach out to him over his LinkedIn, and every details is already there in the description of his videos. Cool. So this is very interesting now. I have a few very interesting questions for you. I mean, so you went to this Techstar incubation, raised money and everything. Wonderful. Now, let's say someone like me, okay, who never went to these incubation, right? Just saw the market, industry, learned step by step, right? Now I want to get now I really want to meet one of these investors. So how to land this one-on-one meeting? How do I reach out to these investors? How do I get to have one-on-one meeting?
Yeah, this is the most commonly asked question I get on my social media and DMs. So the reality is, this industry, the venture industry, the startup ecosystem, it is very small. It might feel big, but it's very small. Everybody seems to know everyone. And as you get more into the thick of the industry, you realize that, what you say to certain people really can come back to haunt you, or positively if it was good, right? Therefore, trust is the primary entry strategy into raising capital. So if you're talking about venture capital funds, VCs in the most traditional sense, going in cold, whether that's sending a cold email to one of the partners or associates or whoever, that is a very unlikely strategy to help you put together a
Oh,
round. Just the way it is. Our world is based on networking. That's not unfair. That's just the way it is. And the onus is on you as the founder to create a network that you can leverage to get introductions. So the way you do it,
understood.
to answer your question, if someone asked me, I would just say 2 words: warm intros. That's it. So when you get into a program like Techstars, part of the, and really, I'd say at least 40 to 50% of the value of doing it is to get access to that network. Who knows, who, it's just this chain. And that way you have all these warm introductions go out to investors, and you're going to get first meetings, right? I think something that people forget, whether they're in an accelerator, they've raised money, or they have not, every step of fundraising is just like a step in a sales funnel, just like sales. This is a sales process, right?
Mm,
When you're trying to get investment, you don't focus on how do I get the money? How do I get the check sent? Or how do I get the bank wire? You first focus on, okay, how do I get them to respond to my email? Okay. Then
interesting.
the only goal of the first contact, the touch point, is to get meeting number one, nothing else.
Mm,
Then the point of meeting number one, the whole point will be to get meeting number two, meeting three, etc. So with that in mind, your goal to get in touch with investors is to get them to respond. That is it. If you're a person that can write a killer cold email and somehow, hack your way into a process, go for it. It can work. But we all have things like university, even sports interests. I can do a deep dive into their portfolio companies. Maybe I'm a user or a customer of something they've invested in, and I can really show that I know it. Any way you can have some kind of association, right, to that person is how
mm,
you're going to get in.
great, great. So basically, the fundraise is also possible on one-on-one coffee chat as well, right? I mean, one-on-one meeting over the Zoom call, right? Wonderful. Okay, so you don't have to be in a Shark Tank or something like
No.
that incubator to raise the fund. I mean,
No. And just to be clear, I had not raised a single dollar ever in person. It's always Zoom. That is the preferred choice of at least the first early meetings with investors. Most of my money came from out west, anyways, in LA and in California. So going back and forth, especially like still ending in the pandemic, that just wasn't realistic. However, if I were to raise again, I do think that you have advantages to have a presence in a room. You only know me so well through a screen. There is an advantage to bringing a real presence to a room, or just going out and befriending someone, whether it's a coffee or a drink, right? I think that is probably would lead to a higher close rate. But I don't think that's what this audience really should be concerned about. It should be, what are my networks? Where have I worked?
uh,
How can I tap into it? If I have absolutely no network, no connections, no family, no friends, no nothing, okay, well, maybe you haven't done much in your life, but let's just say you have and you still don't have that list. You need to get on LinkedIn and you need to make friends. You're not
mm,
going to be asking for money. You're going to be, can I buy you coffee? Can I buy you lunch?
well,
Who's going to turn down free food? Maybe they will, but that's the kind of approach you need to take.
so coming back to your story,
Mhm.
right? So I mean, you raised fund, you built team. So looking back, what do you feel that now, with all your learning, tell
Mhm.
us that when is the right time to raise fund for for a startup? What do you think in this aspect?
I think first you need to decide if you need to raise funds. Why are you
Mm,
raising money? I'll admit, through my experiences, part of what made my ridiculous risk to leave a very steady career path, to put my education on pause. I have parents, very traditional parents in this sense. Sometimes, and very too often, unfortunately, and especially first time founders, they're raising money as this validation point. If I
mm,
raise money from Andreessen Horowitz, that's like I worked at Goldman Sachs. That's like I'm engineer 50 at Nvidia, right? That is not the way to think about it, but that is human nature. Again, where all of us are running through some small hole because everyone else is doing it, so it must be validating. It's what we should do. Wrong.
absolutely,
Wrong.
absolutely,
You raise
absolutely.
money because you need money, capital, to unlock certain milestones in your business. So
Mm,
if I had to do it again, I would not. I'm speaking, I'll be just full disclosure. I'm speaking with privilege because I've already gone through Techstars. So I have that
mm,
network for life. So I don't regret
right.
any of that. But I
Wonderful.
think if I were to go and do another business, I probably would try to raise as little capital as possible for as long as possible. Be okay with not having venture backing, being okay with my friends being like, what are you doing? Oh, you have $100 in monthly recurring revenue. I can't say I've raised millions. That you can do without that, because there are a lot of constraints it puts into your business to raise money and have investors come aboard. So I think if you're looking to raise money, it's because you need it, and there's clear identifiable reasons. I need to hire this talent. I need to grow and hit XYZ user sales metrics. I need to acquire this infrastructure, whatever it is. There's a clear use. Now you have a justifiable reason to raise, right? If you're just raising the money for the sake of growing your accounts, that is foolish.
Understood. So thank you so much for that answer. That was really deep. So one thing just I want to understand from your experience, from your journey, your story, actually, so once you have this, you are out of this, you have built your MVP, you have user tractions and everything, right? Now it's the team, right? Like how do you hire the team, right? I mean, after this, like, did you hire the executives or you hired the associates? How did you do that?
I made a lot of hiring mistakes. A lot. This is probably the area where I learned the most and grew the most, just through failure. I think that, and I'm speaking from a younger person's perspective because I was building this in college. Remember, that's where it started.
Right.
There is definitely a tendency, and it's understandable and intuitive, that you want to build something with your friends. I made this mistake. I had co-founders, right? People that started the business with me that were friends. Some I am no longer friends with, and that's a totally, a conversation for another point. This is really hard. It's not for everyone. Not everyone has the stamina. Okay. But separately, I had this tendency to want to get, I'm not going to say free work, but interns. Oh, sure. Buddy, I think you know what you're doing. You can help me get some users on here because you know a lot of fraternities at our school, so that helped get users. That was such a terrible mistake. All of it. I made this mistake time and time again. In Techstars, I was also looking to hire more engineers. We were capitalized. Well, how are we sourcing these engineers? How are we screening them? What does the interview process look like? I really believe that I cut a lot of corners because I just wanted to build. I wanted to build more features. I wanted to get the product out. I wanted to grow. That I sacrificed two things. One is intimacy of a founding team, and I can explain on that, elaborate. And two, the culture that is being set. As someone that used to laugh and say, corporate culture, that's just something they teach us in textbooks. No. This is the most important thing and maybe one of the hardest to get right. The first 10 people you have in your org are going to set the culture for the duration of the business.
Right.
And you need to get it right. And that stems from getting the co-founders right. Who is the founding team? Not the founding employees, the founding team. So I think that when I'm looking back on my experiences, some of the best advice I can give as someone that is technical and a business type entrepreneur founder, I kind of can speak those languages, which has been a massive advantage for me in recruiting because I can get engineers excited. I would never go into business with another business person again. I would build out a team of technical talent around me because they are on average much smarter and better at this stuff because they are systems thinkers.
Awesome.
So that really is important.
Great. So the best pair of co-founders, or let's say the founding team, is basically a business guy and a tech guy, right? So I think,
or more than one tech guy,
or more than one tech guy.
Yes.
Oh, wonderful, awesome. Great. So just one question, like emphasizing on the hiring part here. So you said that it should be cultural. They should have a cultural fit and something like that, right? So how do you identify in the first case, like, what kind of culture you want to have? And don't you think that this is going to put delay the hiring process because you were looking for the cultural fit, and now you're looking for kind of that spark in the candidate? No, you want the talent, you want the cultural fit, and specifically this is going to delay the hiring process, especially like when you are looking to accelerate in a faster pace. And no, so what do you have to say about that?
Right. So to just dive deep into the real question that's being asked, we first have to address the hiring cadence and the hiring frequency. Should I be hiring a bunch of people? Is accelerating through hiring necessary? I've deployed now millions of dollars, so I feel fairly equipped, even though I'm still just getting started, to say that do not hire until you have product market fit, or you really have people that are loving your thing because they're sharing it with others and they're continuing their payments or subscription, whatever it is to you. I really would never hire anyone outside of the co-founders I have until I know definitively that this product has legs to grow. I hired way too quickly. I wanted to scale it prematurely because everyone feels, oh, I have 5 employees. Again, friends, family, look, I have a real business here, but I'm really just eating ramen and trying to make this thing work, right? In terms of setting culture, that is part of the culture. Part of the culture, I think, to be successful is we need as few people as possible to have maximum output and efficiency per employee, per head. I think that has to be, if I were to run an organization, ingrained in the culture that we never want to have a bloated org chart. We never want to have too many people here. This is a selective group of people who are essential and do the jobs of 10 people. And if you have that screen, you're already going to be able to filter out a lot of people who might seem exceptional because they worked at Google or they did this, but they don't have the attitude to want to be the guy that does the job of 10. You need that person.
So the first few team members need to be very passionate, very driven, right, and culturally fit. So
yes, they have to be aligned with the founder's vision. Every company is going to have different cultural tenets, right? Founder mode, the Paul Graham essay that's been absolutely viral, right? That's speaking to this idea that the founder has the only person that has the ability to make these decisions and change the company DNA even later, post IPO, because they saw the thing evolve from when it was nothing. They know what breaks the product. They know what is going to get the organization from 0 to 1. So I think that that's really important. That's not just dedication. That's not just love for the vision or hopefully the space. For us, it was love of music. You had to be obsessed with music because why else would you want to build something in the music space? Not just for the salary, then you're not a good fit, right? The key is that there's aptitude, that there's a potential for that person to become much better as the org scales. I would rather hire someone that doesn't have all the crazy pedigree, the logos, the Amazon, the FANG, right? I'd rather someone that has not done that, but they've invented things. And I feel that they will be able to continue to get far better. So I wouldn't underestimate, I wouldn't sacrifice where someone can go as an employee or co-founder with where they are today.
Great. So we are like end part of it. So great, Max. I mean, like it's very inspiring to see your journey. Like technically, I learned a lot, and I'm sure our viewers have learned a lot as well. Again, as I said, I'll drop the link, and people can reach out to you definitely for a lot more insights and have like one-on-one time with you. So just one question, like what is next for Max? What are you doing next?
Sure. Can't speak too much to it, but we are with HotDrop in a later stage M&A process. So I can't really speak to too much details, but if people follow me, they might be able to see updates, assuming that goes positively. You never know with these things. Assuming that's successful, I'd probably go on to work for the acquirer. If not, probably do a little exploration. I'm personally not in a rush to start a new company. This stuff is tough. I'm not burnt out, but I want to make sure that I take the mistakes, some of the lessons I shared today, and make sure that I'm maximizing my chance for success, knowing that this stuff is impossible and it's for crazy people. So it might look like work, it might be supporting some other companies I've advised, some founders. I love giving back, not doing this for the money. I'm really doing it to give back and see what's next. But there's definitely a near 99% chance that at some point I launch something new. I just don't know what it is yet.
Wonderful. Interesting. One unfiltered advice that you received that has helped you throughout your journey until now?
Oh, that's such a great question. I think that, and this is very cynical on human nature,
Mhm.
but I really do believe that, and unfortunately is the reality, everyone at the end of the day is just in it for themselves. Some people are probably going to completely disagree with this. I think when I look at what helped me get into these programs that are considered exclusive or whatever, help me raise money, that reverse engineering process from greed is really just
Mhm.
what's in it for me. Or we say
Right.
with them, what's in it for me, right? So whenever I think of someone in a deal, I'm like with them. What's in it for this person? What do they
Right.
really want?
Right.
That makes you a better deal maker. And if you're a good deal
Oh.
maker, sales is how you get everything done. So I
Hmm.
think that understanding that most people are unfortunately or fortunately self-interested, it gives you an advantage if you're aware of what interests they have, and
Right.
then be there to support them
Hmm.
in getting to that, and you can co-elevate yourself at the same time. That's how I think about it.
Interesting. Interesting. Thank you so much, Max. It was great to have you. And I'm sure a lot of people have taken a lot of insights from today's conversation. And yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Thank you. It's been a pleasure.